Hey y'all, I'm Lara Luna, and this is episode 9 of Trailer Park Angel. This story starts with a typical day. Early in the morning before 7 a.m., my pug Gemma and I take our usual walk before the Florida sun gets too hot. The street was quiet, except for the sound of Miss Millie's fountain and a couple of woodpeckers in the cypress trees. That's when I heard a truck come into our park. It looked like a U-Haul rumbling down the road with 3 people and a dog in the cab. Now, in any other neighborhood, that might not mean much, but in our park, a U-Haul is the same thing as a float in a parade. Because when you're over 55, new neighbors are as exciting as getting mail or going on a cruise to Costco on Free Sample Saturday. Folks in here drop whatever they're doing to come see who's moving in every time we get new neighbors. And y'all know me, I wasn't about to miss this and wanted to see who was gonna crawl out of that truck. The U-Haul parked at the green double-wide with the pink shutters at the end of the park. Me and Gemma started to walk that way. When it's this early, no one's out except for us walking. But when people hear anything at all that isn't the normal squawking, the alarm bell sets off. The first one out was Mr. Earl, marching across his lawn holding a bikini top. He walked to the naked mermaid and finally gave her some dignity. Guess he figured if new neighbors were moving in, she ought to look a little more like the Little Mermaid and a little less like what the sheriff and Navy guy would drag home from the villages. A few seconds after that, Miss Dottie emerged from her trailer, dressed head to toe in camo, acting like she was heading out hunting, just so she could get a good look through her binoculars. And as expected, Savannah sashayed out in lingerie and her fuzzy slippers. Lord help us all. Just in case it turned out to be another Army Ranger moving in. And Miss Tammy, she was wandering around calling for a cat she doesn't even own. She moseyed her way right down toward the U-Haul. And just when I thought it couldn't get any crazier, here comes Miss Patty, strutting past in a purple jogging suit from 1978. Headband, wristbands, little hand weight swinging. This woman don't even walk to her mailbox most days. And now, she's power walking like she's training for the Olympics. She winked at me as she went by, and I knew exactly what that meant. Parade season had officially begun. And sure enough, not long after that, here comes a golf cart rolling up slow. The sheriff riding shotgun, the Navy guy at the wheel, and sitting right behind him were their 2 new girlfriends. Remember Madonna from the little grass hut on the island? Well, she was looking like a hot mess from Studio 54. And next to her was Elvira with her spray tan. So orange, she looked like an Oompa Loompa, straight out of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. If I was those folks, after seeing that, I would have rolled out of here like I was running from Sheriff Buford T. Justice in Smokey and the Bandit. They leaned out of the golf cart, gave a little wave, and said to the newbies, "Need a hand with that U-Haul?" So there I was, standing with Gemma, watching the whole circus unfold. The neighbors had gathered in a little half circle, like we were sitting front row at a show. Mr. Earl and his wife had lawn chairs already. The new folks were starting to unload their treasures, one box at a time. Miss Dottie whispered, "What's that?" I tilted my head, looked a little closer, and said, "I think that's a framed picture of John Travolta, a Stayin' Alive poster. and a dusty old Welcome Back Cotter board game straight out of 1976. By now it was clear. This family wasn't just moving in. They were setting up their own polyester museum. Disco balls, puzzles, posters, polyester pants everywhere. And me, I just stood there smiling, thinking, bless these poor new folks. They had no idea what kind of freak show they just rolled into. We all went home after helping. Next morning, before coffee and donuts at the clubhouse, I was out walking Gemma past the U-Haul house. That's when I spotted something strange on the lawn. A little square mirror with a Chiquita banana sticker stuck right on the back of it. I picked it up, slipped it back on their porch, and kept walking. But I also stuck it in the back of my mind. Anyway, by 9 o'clock, we were all piled into the gossip house for coffee and donuts. That's where we finally met the new residents. The doors swung open, and a polyester woman with her husband and a walker came smiling in. We got to meet Miss Judy and Mr. John. Mr. John was dressed in shiny slacks, a big collared shirt, and was modeling the whole Saturday Night Fever vibe. Miss Dottie leaned over to me sipping her coffee and whispered, well, somebody's got a polyester fetish. I almost spit my jelly donut out trying not to laugh. They made their way up front and smiled real big. Miss Judy told us she's a retired RN. Mr. John leaned in, puffed up his chest, and said he used to work out in Silicon Valley. The way he said it, you'd think he invented disco. And then their son, Bill, barreled into the clubhouse like he was gonna miss getting the best jelly donut from the box. His hair was slicked back, and he was holding a Rubik's Cube like it was a business card. Said he's 45 and collecting antiques and fixin' to open up a little booth at the local flea market. You should have seen Esmeralda's eyes light up. She was already dreaming about how many troll dolls she could sell them. That's when Miss Tammy piped up, all nosy as ever. So where'd y'all live before Florida? The whole room leaned in like we were watching General Hospital. Miss Judy shifted in her seat and said, oh, here and there. Mr. John cleared his throat and muttered something about California being too crowded nowadays. And Bill just grinned and said, we're real happy to be here now. The way they dodged that question, even Savannah stopped applying her lipstick long enough to raise an eyebrow. Then the sheriff leaned back in his chair, smirking, and said under his breath, sometimes things are too good to be true. And the Navy guy chuckled and added, yeah, something tells me this story ain't finished. I told those two, no one's listening to y'all's opinions yet, because we're all still recovering from the Darsky and Dutch fiasco. Meanwhile, Savannah was leaning halfway across the table, batting her eyelashes at Bill, asking if he ever served in the Army. And Miss Dottie, she was still sitting beside me, shaking her head and whispering, polyester fetish, I knew it. And right then I thought back to that little mirror with the banana sticker I found on their lawn. I didn't know what it meant yet, but I had a feeling before long we were all gonna find out. Then, out of nowhere, a flash of light hits the room like a sign from the angels. And in that split second, Mr. John shot up out of his walker like he'd been struck by lightning, hollering, Effin Flamingos, Effin Flamingos, Effin Flamingos. over and over like he was struck with polyester Tourette's. And just as quick, the light faded. There he was again, calm as ever, sitting behind his walker like nothing happened. We all just stared at each other, mouths hanging open, wondering what in the world we just seen. Then Miss Tammy leaned in real quiet and said, "Y'all think we're gonna find any angel numbers this time?" I stared at her like, "That's what you're thinking about after what we just saw?" I'm sitting here realizing we got a man that just moved into our park with Polk County Parrot Syndrome. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And honestly, that might be worse than Mr. Earl's Naked Mermaid. That's it, I'm moving. This is starting to remind me of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Stay tuned for episode 10, when we finally find out what's really going on with the guy who keeps repeating himself with that Chiquita banana sticker on the mirror, and what other surprises the Polyester Fetish crew has got in store for this park. Hey, thanks for listening, and thanks for your time. This podcast comes out every Tuesday and Friday, so come back real soon for another low-budget production of 55-plus magic in a Florida swamp. And remember to hit the bell if you want to be notified of new episodes. I also have photos and short videos of all the characters coming out soon. They won't be on alert, so you'll have to come back to my YouTube channel and check them out, or sign up for my newsletter on my website. You can find the link in the bio. Thanks again, and I hope you all have a real good day. Bye!